guys, I get a lot of questions about the exact electronic setup I use, more so the LiveScope setup. So today I'm going to run through every single component I have on the kayak to make the LiveScope system work, including the graph, the transducer mount, the arms, the batteries, and of course, most importantly, exactly how everything is wired and how everything connects seamlessly in my LiveScope system. So I have the Garmin down inside imaging, including the live imaging. So I've got it all. And first, I'm going to go over the parts list, and then I'm going to go over how everything is connected. And you can find everything you need for this exact build in the link in the description. So after today's video, you'll know everything I have, how expensive it is, where to get it, and of course, how I have it all hooked up. All right, so I brought my iPad to take note of every single component I have to make it work, along with the price. And this is going to be the best price, the cheapest price that I can find, so that way you guys aren't spending. I'm a budget guy. Listen, I will search the internet to find you the best deals and link them in the description. The only thing that I regret is I forgot my battery. I will plug in footage right here, but I will show you how it all works. But unfortunately, I can't fire it up. But that's not that important. Okay, so I do have the Garmin 106 SV with the GT4 transducer. You can get this combo for about $1,000 with the link in my description, more some other places, but that kayak over there has the 73, and I would say honestly the 10-inch is really good. The 10 to 9-inch is ideal. The 7-inch is great. It's awesome. It's a little bit smaller. This just looks phenomenal. But the Garmin 106 with the, and I'm not going to really run through how I installed this transducer just because this one's pretty basic on the Old Towns. There's a lot of tutorials, but I did have to get a $25 bracket on Amazon that fits these Old Town Autopilot specifically. But this is the GT54 down inside imaging. Absolutely love this thing. My favorite setup for flats fishing. And in fact, that kayak right there has the exact same setup. It has the GT54. So I have two of them, both on the same brackets and both running on Garmin's. One's the 7-inch, one is the 10-inch. Okay, so that's going to run you about $1,000 for the GT54 combo with this screen. You can buy this screen separately, but depending on where you get it from, it's almost not even that much cheaper. So I recommend just getting the combo. You might as well, because for flats fishing, I don't use LiveScope at all. So if I'm in shallow water, not using LiveScope, and I like to have the map functions and all the extra good stuff that comes with the GT54. Also, of course, comes with the graph as well. So that's going to run, that ran about $1,000 if you go get it right now, brand new. We'll talk about the LiveScope transducer. So I have the Garmin LVS 34 transducer, of course, with the black box. That is this fella right here, and this is the exact one I use. Mine's a little bit wobbly, but it doesn't seem to affect performance at all. And the black box is in here, and it's actually installed on little wood legs to keep it from sliding around too much. So like I said, I will show you how it's all in here. But this combo, brand new right now, is gonna run you about $1,700. Black Friday is coming up, so the link, I will put some links in the description of the cheapest, and I will keep updating it so you always get the best deals. But the Garmin LVS 34 transducer with the black box is gonna run you about $1,700, and that is what I am using right here. Now let's talk about this dashboard here. This is from Navar Kayak. This is the dashboard for the 106 and the 120. Now, it's pretty cool because this is a heavy-duty graph. It is heavy. It will fit on the RAM mount that I have over there. The graph is off. It's in my truck. I don't have the graph on it right now because I bring all of these kayaks to me when I fish, and I don't want anybody taking my graph. So, but there is a RAM mount over there. So I do like the dashboard. It is pretty cool. It supports the weight of all of it, but that mount right there is also pretty awesome. So it's honestly personal preference, but this thing is really beefy. I mean, it's significantly bigger than my 7-inch, and I just don't want that flopping around down the highway. So I like the dashboard. I might experiment with taking it off, but I also like to set stuff on there. I set snacks on there, and it does not come pre-drilled. So you will have to drill your own holes in there to mount your graph, but that's no big deal at all. And this dashboard is going to run you about $85. So it's pretty cheap. And, you know, I really like it. It's pretty awesome. Sometimes I'm very happy I have it. Sometimes I will take that kayak out just to not have it because I can't lay my big drum in here to get cool solo pictures. But anyway, Okay, so for the box, this is the whole brains of the operation built into this box. And this is the Yak Attack Black Pack Pro. This is the one with the 3 rod holders on each side. And we have all our electronics going on inside of this box to completely waterproof it. And I do have another Black Pack Pro over there, but there's no electronics running into this one. So this is kind of a unique setup, and it works really, really good, and I absolutely love it. So stay tuned later as I show you how that's all broken down. And that's gonna run you about $175. They do have cheaper options, but I prefer having all these rod holders for all my rods, and I can secure them to the boat with this. So big fan of that, and I'll even take it through the boat wash when I'm done using it. That's why it's so wet. It doesn't really dry out in here very well, and this keeps it completely waterproof. And then I have another little box that attaches to the top of that. So it's going to run you about $175. And the kind of the brains of the operation in here is the Yak Power. I believe it's called the Yak Power Plug and Play System Control Panel. So that's going to be this thing right in here. So this hooks up to the battery, my 30 amp hour AMP battery. So that goes here. There's a lot going on in here, but that connects to the battery. And then everything else plugs into here. This connects to this little control panel right here. And this control panel, with all that stuff plugged in, is going to control my nav lights. So I've got nav lights, my red and greens. I have interior lights over here, which I have not actually mounted myself. They're just kind of floating in here, and I never use them because, well, I don't need them back there, and I don't fish at night very often at all. But it's also going to control the graph. So you can turn it on that way. And this is also going to turn on the black box. So everything plugs into here, which everything then plugs into the battery. And then that Yak Power is, of course, attached to this panel. So this Yak Power is going to run you about $150. Now let's talk about what I have my transducer mounted on. This is going to be the Railblaza. It's going to be the shorter shaft version for kayaks. They make a longer shaft version for boats. But this is a really cool system, and it's going to run you about $210, but it's very adjustable. It's, you can slide it in and out, pivot 360 degrees, absolutely no problem. And of course, you pop that up and you can stow it if you're running on the flats, because I do not recommend you run. These kayaks will run 4 to 5 miles an hour, depending on wind and current. And that'll put a lot of strain on that. So it's easy to just pop it up, lay it down so it's out of the water, and you can scoot along, because I don't like to go over about 1.5 miles with that in the water. It's just not good for it. So it is nice to be able to easily pop it up, pop it down, and when I'm trailering it down the highway, since it is hardwired into the kayak, into the black box, I will just take it completely out and tuck it under here, and this dashboard also keeps things secured in there down the highway. So I will stuff stuff under it and kind of attach it to it. So that's another benefit of that. But this will run you about $210, this Railblaza right here. Now, I have an amped outdoors 30 amp hour lithium battery. It's a really, really, really high-end battery. It'll last me all day. Powers my LiveScope, down in imaging, and all of the lights. That usually goes in here, plugs in here. I'll put in a shot of it, but this is a really high quality battery, and it's going to run you about $200. So I highly recommend the amped outdoors battery. They are top-notch stuff, and that's the brains of all of this. And I have the 30 amp hour to power all of these, because if you go any less than 30 amp hour, you're not going to have a ton of time on the black box on the LiveScope, because it is super, super power hungry. So don't get yourself a 10 amp hour or a 15 amp hour. You're going to need at least a 30 amp hour. And of course, right here, I just wanted to throw this in before we get into how it's all rigged up, is the protective sleeving. And that's just going to run you about $9 on Amazon. It looks really good. You can get any kind, and it just kind of helps protect it a little bit. You get everything here. It's going to run you about $3,500 pre-tax. Holiday seasons are coming up. Now is your time to get some deep discounts. But, I mean, the LiveScope alone used to cost $3,500. So getting all of this stuff for that price is actually really good, to completely have all the electronics, all the bells and whistles, and have all of that, which is pretty sweet. In fact, you know what? I think, yeah, there's my wallet and GoPro batteries. I stinking knew it, dude. I went out yesterday and I was looking for my wallet this morning, and I knew I left it in there from yesterday. What do you freaking know? All right, let me put this in the car. Okay, like I said, I'm not really going to talk too much on the GT54 transducer installation because that's all over the internet. It's super easy. You just have to buy this little $25 adapter, which I'll put in there, attach it to it. You run it up through the scupper hole for the transducer, run it behind this plate where the motor goes, in here, into the hole, and then you're going to see the big long cord all up in there that I still need to coil. I ran that up and through here, which is designed to take off and run your cords through and plug it directly into my graph. So I'm not going to run through that just because, well, I guess I just did, but there's a lot of videos on that. Okay, so let's start with the dashboard. Goes on just like any other kayak accessory, goes right on the track, no big deal, and you just drill your own holes for the graph. That is pretty self-explanatory, but let's start with the transducer. So the Railblaza sits right here, and I bought this kayak pre-used. So it was already pre-rigged, and I've been kind of breaking it down and moving stuff around and thinking about changing some things. Not really the LiveScope system, but I've been really digging into it, and yeah, it is rigged pretty well. I don't know if I would have done this, but I've been trying to think about a way to change it, and honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, I think this is one of the better ways to do it. That's the least intrusive and honestly just works. It doesn't look the best, but here's what's going on. Okay, so this transducer cable from the black box obviously has to go to the black box. So what happened here was this rod holder just got a chunk taken out of it so that this can seamlessly fit inside of it and then screwed back down, and it's just covered with tape just to make it look a little less jagged. But honestly, it doesn't look great, but it really works. But that goes into the hole inside and connects right into my black box that is sitting in this storage under the seat. That my seat comes here, the battery sits here, battery plugs in. You know how it is with these Old Towns. But the black box is going to sit in here with the transducer cord connected to it inside of it. So that's how the transducer cord is ran to the black box. But the main event is right here. So we've got where the battery goes in here. The yak power is screwed in to the box right here. So then everything plugs into that. We've got a bunch of different cables running in and out all over the place, and it ends up coming to this control panel. So what happened was a hole got drilled out. It looks like it's fit in there, but it's literally just a hole cut out, and it's just sitting in there, just like that. So you can pull it out, you can push it in, and then once the battery is plugged in, you just turn it on. Number one is connected right here. It's all labeled in here, and once you get this system, you'll get all this stuff, and you basically just plug and play. That's why they call it the plug and play system. It's actually really easy, but that's screwed in here. And one turns on my graph, two turns on my transducer or black box. So there's two separate things. So when I'm running down and side imaging on the flats, I will leave this black box off to drain less battery. So I have them on separate toggles there, of course. But how the black box is connected to the yak power system is actually pretty cool. I really like it. So as you can see, it runs through the rod holder. So you've got it plugged in back there, and it all runs up through the rod holder, and all of the cords come in through another hole drilled into this yak attack box, which is really cool. Everything's hardwired in, and it looks really clean. So everything goes inside of there, comes out, and plugs directly into the yak power. So the power cable goes into the yak power source, which connects to this. So as you can see, the transducer is in through this rod holder, connects to the black box. The black box sits here. The rest of the cords, including the power cable, comes all the way up in through this rod holder into the box and plugs directly into the yak power box here. Well, this yak power box is controlled by this control panel, and as you can see, boom, you press that on, connects through here, goes under, flips it on, turns on the transducer and the graph, and that's basically how everything is wired up. So as you can see, everything is labeled. One, that is the power cable from the graph right here. So as you can see, the power cable from the graph goes up down in here. as well as the transducer cable, or the black box cable, also runs inside this, all under the hole, through here, comes around and plugs directly into the black box. And that is how the black box connects through the hole pretty simply to the graph. So this is the transducer cable. This cable connects to the graph, and this cable goes up through here and plugs in to the Yak Power system, which then ultimately connects to the battery. As you can see, let me put my phone in here. All the cords, yeah, look at that. All the cords end up going up through here, and that's what I like about this setup, is that it all goes to the Yak Power, and all I got to do is reach behind my seat and toggle it. There's a lot of really cool install videos on YouTube, and everybody does something a little bit different. And although I do wish that I had an install video for you, I bought this pre-used, so it took me a long time to kind of dissect everything, figure it all out, figure out how it all goes together, and now I'm just kind of adjusting things a little bit. And it's honestly a really, really cool setup. But that's how it's wired. And although I wanted to change it and make it my own, this is honestly my favorite build I have seen, and I've seen them all on YouTube. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I will see you in the next one, and check the link in the description for the best prices on all this gear. That is my entire LiveScope setup. I'll see you in the next adventure.